Hi everyone, my name is MJ Smith, a first-year sociology psychology double major from Little Rock, Arkansas. As our political climate continues to grow and tension and certain government leaders pioneer blatant fascism, it brings many to question why our country is headed in this path with no clear reason as to why. Well, I'd like to bring light to activist, feminist, and political scientist Kathy Cohen. Kathy Cohen is a leading political scientist and black feminist scholar, best known for her essay Punks, Bulldaggers, and Welfare Queens. In this piece, she challenges how queer politics and intersectional movements more broadly have shifted over time. Cohen argues that what began as a radical challenge to power, rooted in the experiences of society's most marginalized, has often become absorbed by mainstream institutions. Instead of dismantling systems of oppression, many movements have adapted to fit within them, reaffirming the same hierarchies they once opposed. Her analysis pushes us to think critically about what real liberation looks like, especially when progress is defined through access or inclusion in systems that were never built for everyone. When we look at the political and social climate today, both nationally and within our own AUC community, we can see echoes of Cohen's warning. Many of our movements now face the same tension between transformation and assimilation, and between radical change and the comfort of recognition. That's why revisiting Cohen's work feels so important right now. It gives us language to question what kind of progress we're truly making, and who that progress is really for. So in this video, I'll be exploring these ideas further through a series of interviews with AUC students. Together, we'll discuss how we understand political and social progress, where we see genuine transformation happening, and where we might still be falling into the trap Cohen describes. Let's get started.
My name is Jayri Ingram. I'm a freshman political science major from Connecticut.
My name is Masindo Smith, freshman educational studies major from Los Angeles, California.
When you think about the political energy on campus, would you say it's more reformist or radical today, and why?
I would definitely say it's more reformist. We don't usually jump the gun on things now. So, like one example, we were in a college Democrats group meet, and someone said that we should hold a protest.
Yeah.
So everyone started talking in the group chat back and forth for like an hour or so, and someone decided to say they wanted to burn a flag,
Yeah.
and everyone else, instead of saying let's burn a flag, let's do something, they said that sounds absolutely crazy. They said we need plans, we need a vision, we can't just lead with emotions, we need to converse at a table instead of just talking through a group meet.
It's not that we've become more reformist, it's that we have started to ask the why. Everyone knows that Morehouse College is a pretty liberal school. Just last year, we had someone running for SGA take down the Israel flag in the chapel. So all flags now have been replaced with the UN flag. On top of that, President Biden gave the commencement address a couple of years ago, and we had many of our brothers at the time turn their backs on him while he was giving his address. I just think that we now have to, in this day and age, our time is valuable and we have to start asking the why for things that we do.
I would say the climate in general in this country is more reformist right now, which might be breeding that reformist energy on the college campus. I'm not sure if we have this. I wouldn't say the space for radicalism right now. It's just that we're not as attuned to it as we were during like the 60s during the civil rights movement. So a movement like that, ideas like that, wouldn't be seen as practical right now.
Right.
I don't know if as many people would join the movement as they would back then when it was more casual.
This is a generation that came to age during COVID.
Right.
Many of our social interactions are broken. So I think that it's now even a thing of, I see a problem, I'm going to do something about the problem, but I don't have the courage enough to do something. And if I say something, how many will follow?
Mhm.
If I try to start something, how many will join?
Building on Cohen's work, I want to spend a moment unpacking what her ideas really mean, especially when we think about the intersections of queerness, politics, and institutional power. Queer theory, in many ways, expresses how marginalized groups are constantly categorized and regulated by social systems that claim to include them. What's powerful about Cohen's framework is that it shows us how this inclusion often comes at a cost. A cost that centers identity representation rather than structural reform. So instead of dismantling the systems that marginalize people, society often just expands the boundaries of what's considered acceptable or normal. This dynamic reveals a deeper instability within identity politics itself. Cohen asks us to consider whether centering collective identity, while essential for solidarity, might also limit the radical potential of our movements. And at the same time, she raises an equally important question. If we destabilize these shared identities, do we risk losing the unity that allows us to fight back? In other words, our current politics often reward assimilation, the idea that progress is measured by how well marginalized identities can fit into existing institutions. But this kind of progress risks replicating the very systems we say we want to challenge. When identity becomes the end goal, rather than a tool for liberation, we move further from the foundation of transformative politics that Cohen often calls for. So as we listen to these interviews, keep that tension in mind, the push and pull between representation and reform and between inclusion and true transformation.
Hi, my name is Tariana Telfer. I'm a first-year political science major on the pre-law track from Atlanta, Georgia, and I attend Spelman College.
How do respectability politics continue to shape what kinds of Black or queer expressions are celebrated versus marginalized?
When I was asked this question, I was thinking of how would I frame my answer. I feel as if America has, well, even society has a constant need to label or limit authenticity and authentic expression. Society feeling the need to label, with men dressing masculine or dressing in just expressing themselves in like dresses or skirts. Society constantly needs or feels the need to label them as gay or this, and that. They can't just sit here and allow them to just be free. It's a way to classify and categorize individuals in order to put them in a hierarchy or just group them in different social classes or classes in general.
Though Kathy Cohen's work censors queerness, her critique of reform reaches far beyond that. It asks us to reconsider how society engages with any issue we label as complex or too nuanced. The question becomes, is it truly nuance that makes change so difficult, or is it our collective tendency to disassociate from the hard work of liberation, justice, and accountability? This isn't to erase or dismiss the progress made by those who came before us. Their efforts carved out the very space we stand in today. But what Cohen challenges us to do is look deeper, to ask whether what we call progress is actually transformation, or if it's simply assimilation dressed up as advancement. We cannot confuse inclusion within oppressive systems for liberation from them. It's also essential to acknowledge Cohen's Black womanhood and how that shapes her critique. As someone who occupies multiple marginalized identities, Black, queer, and a woman, her perspective carries the weight of lived experience. Within a nation that has historically positioned Black women at the intersections of compounded oppression, Cohen's analysis becomes more than theory, it's a testimony.
Hi, my name is Womboy Kennedy. I'm a first-year biology major on the pre-med track from San Diego, California.
The question was, reflect on Cohen's argument that queer politics should censor the most marginalized communities. An example, Black women, trans people, or incarcerated folks. How does that resonate with or challenge the political culture you see around you?
I definitely agree with the argument. I feel like queer politics, or a lot of queer politics from what I've experienced before I came to Spelman, I feel like it was very much centered around whiteness because I was in a predominantly white space. And I think now that I've come to Spelman and HBCU where we're like centering the Black experience, definitely my conversations among my friends who are also queer have definitely been more, I would say, like aware of the different like levels of intersectionality and how like as Black queer women in particular, like how our experiences like differ a lot just from like a white queer woman or like just like white queer people. I think to center Black women, I think that would be really important, and I think it would actually help a lot because there's this, I forget what the exact term for it, but there's this idea where like when you're helping like people who are like the most marginalized in society, then that kind of have like has ripple effects for everyone else.
When we look at our own context here at the AUC, especially moments like Morehouse's past cross-dressing policy, we see how these same dynamics of regulation and respectability politics continue to shape our institutions. It reminds us that even spaces built on the foundation of Black excellence are not exempt from reproducing the systems that are meant to oppose them.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Amani Green. I'm a freshman sociology major from Baltimore, Maryland.
I'm Joshua Felix. I'm a freshman biology major from Miami, Florida.
And today's topic is all about progress within marginalized communities in the AUC. I feel like in the times that we're in right now, progress is all about reinvesting in the community, reinvesting in the communities that you're in. I think when it comes to the Black community, we really need to reinvest in ourselves. financially and economically, that's one piece, but I feel like we overemphasize that. Um, we overemphasize black capitalism. I am a straight black man, right? But I do know a lot of queer individuals, but I'm not really tapped into those communities. You feel me? And that's what like circling back to one of the very first things I said about building community. Um, like I think in order for us to really grow as an AUC and create like some true unity, not saying that there isn't unity within the AUC, but there there's a lot of division as well. I think part of that is people not really stepping out of their comfort zone. I feel like people on the side that's not marginalized need to actively make the decision to build community with people in the queer community.
But I feel like people themselves like choose to get involved and tap into different communities on their own. Yeah, on their own accord.
I definitely do believe that queer politics, all politics, should be focused more on the marginalized group within that sector, because once you can focus and break down the foundation, you basically are lifting the resistance for everything else to fall in place smoothly.
As we come to a close, this discussion has really traced a thorough line between Kathy Cohen's critique of queer politics and the broader condition of reform in our society. We've explored how movements that began as radical and liberatory often become reshaped, even softened, once they enter institutional or mainstream spaces. Like queer politics, many of today's movements have been politically reframed as something polarizing, the oppressed versus the privileged, rather than a collective coalition against the systems that uphold inequality. This reframing fractures solidarity and shifts the focus from dismantling institutions to defending individual identities within them. Cohen's theology reminds us that liberation must always center the most oppressed, those at the margins of margins. When movements lose sight of that, when they become about visibility instead of transformation, they risk becoming tools of the very systems they sought to challenge. Reform in this sense has always resembled giving stitches to a limb that actually needs amputation, threading over deep infection rather than confronting and removing its source. It may look like progress, but it leaves the underlying disease intact. And even in spaces that call themselves progressive, even among leftist thought and liberal politics, the same systems of power remain, but simply expand to include more people within their reach, offering representation as proof of progress while still exploiting the very communities they claim to welcome. My intention with this conversation has been to invite reflection, not to dismiss progress, but to interrogate what kinds of progress we're really making. Because at the core of Cohen's argument, and at the heart of this project lies a critical question: have we mistaken blind assimilation for political, social, and economic reformation? Thank you.